Why do I seek ordination into the Universal Brotherhood movement? I committed to Anne Marie just prior to her death that I would use my gift of energy, blessed by hers, to help others heal or to become more open-minded. This is a spiritual quest. I am committing myself to the creation of the future. Listen to one of my favorite words that the friend, too, is always saying to us. Mashuk, mashuk. In Persian, it means sweetheart. Mashuk, mashuk. The chorus in the heart needs to sing. Love is sovereign and ceaselessly moves. From the tuned clay drum, chanting, humming, all day long, mashuk, mashuk, to everything. I am going to be ordained on the 19th of April. And that will be in Maui, on the island of Maui. In a very, very sacred valley, the Io Valley, for some of you who have been there. I will be ordained into the Universal Brotherhood movement. It's non-denominational, interfaith. It's worldwide. The only one criterion that is necessary, that you dedicate your life to serve others. I'm not sure where I'm going to be. I had hoped to go to Ecuador. I had been kind of counting on it until the doctor says your asthma is not going to allow you to be at that high elevation. Sorry. Find an orphanage at sea level. Okay. So anyway, things have changed, and I was somewhat disappointed. Now, let's see if I can get this. I'm still talking into this thing. I had to write a bio sketch, and it was much longer than what I have here. But before I begin that bio sketch, I want you to know that these are my paintings here, and they are here for a reason. I need a backdrop of sort to give me some support, but just for one moment, let me just mention the one on the far easel was stimulated by Robert Frost, and also by a reading from the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna. On that cross, when I painted that, I considered it to be you, to be me, to be Arjuna, to be Christ. Okay, I wish I could spend some time with it. The painting down below, I went out to the whole river valley, and I just found a very deep spiritual place that I just had to paint. And so the lower one is then a tributary of the Ho. My life has been reconfigured through no choice of my own. The dearest person in my life died in July of 2013, my wife, Anne Marie. We shared for 49 years the awareness of each other's strong spiritual energy and a deep love for one another that extended to others with whom we interacted. Just prior to her passing, she blessed me with her love, knowing that I would extend our united love to others. Thus, I have committed myself to serving others through the practice of Reiki. And by the way, I'm now a second-degree Reiki practitioner. But also through artistic expression, both of which are natural means by which I am able to direct the strong energies that have guided my adult life. I have intuitively known about and have been sensitive to the energies that flow around and through our bodies since childhood, even being sensitive to energy patterns existing around other people. But only recently, over the past 15 years, as a caregiver, did the realization come that the energies that I felt could be directed for some purpose beyond my inner self. Anne-Marie was well aware of my energy level, requesting frequently that I place my hands above her body to ease her pain. Her death has redrawn my focus toward a deeper understanding of how energy affects our day-to-day life and how energy is the source or cause of health issues. But also, I have come to believe that a universal energy manifests into multiple dimensions of reality, making visionary contact with infinite levels of meaning and being, which I express in my art as an awakened reverence for life. You can call this awakened sense variously as God, infinite love, primordial awareness, the Tao, Christ consciousness, Buddha, nature, on and on and on. We all, whatever. So why do I seek to be ordained? First of all, a deep and enduring Christ-centeredness sustains my energy level. As Paul says in Romans, I can do all things in Christ, which strengtheneth me. Thus, I believe a ministerial capacity would enhance my relations while administering to Reiki patients. Then, to my psychic antenna seeks metaphysical sustenance through symbolic language of form and content. Thus, my artistic expression becomes the nutrition for my soul. For it is in the creation of my art that the healing power of spirit is awakened. Having a ministerial credential would lend to my concern for the common good, which is based in an unshakable knowledge of humanity's deep unity with one another and the cosmos. Ordination would fulfill a long-held ambition that has resided in the depths of my being. At one time before being married, I had accepted to matriculate at Princeton Theological Seminary. But I'm ahead of myself. Are you ready? I'm just getting started. Okay. As a youth, I would go to the nearby Catholic church. My family were dropout Catholics, but for some reason, I was drawn there. As I became older, my attendance became less frequent and faded away by the time I graduated from the University of Washington. For 3 years thereafter, I traveled around the world. By the way, I borrowed $100 to leave. I borrowed $100 to get back in the country. Gaining teaching jobs to sustain myself. It was during this time, while in Japan, that I was drawn to Zen Buddhism. But then the philosophical teachings of Hinduism attracted my attention while in India, particularly the Bhagavad Gita from the Mahabharata. My spiritual consciousness had been opened to unique and profound thoughts, creating an inner conflict of the heart. My cultural experiences have been expanded to such a degree that the cultural foundation supporting my belief systems had become wholly transparent. When I returned to the U.S., I was somewhat culturally paralyzed, but my seeking for understanding led me to a relationship with Christ with the assistance of my dear friend Gary Nunley, who is here. But as it was to become in the years as I grew, not the Jesus Christ of the church, but rather the Christ Spirit that transcends all life and the universe. Also, I met the love of my life, Anne Marie Somerset, with whom I shared the thoughts of Meister Eckhart of Hochheim, Carl Jung, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the three strongest intellectual and spiritual influences in my life. In that Anne Marie and I were established educators, we decided to begin our married lives by accepting teaching positions in Iran as short-term missionaries. The experience of living in a Muslim country for 3 years as Christian missionaries reconfirmed my conviction that all humanity is molded by archetypal behaviors, and that only through education and exposure to new ideas could one's consciousness or the conscious awareness be raised. But also apparent were my own spiritual and cultural barriers to experiencing new ways of thinking. Change can only occur when a mind opens to new ideas. Thus, when we returned to the U.S., I sought to expand my own knowledge and understanding by earning an MA and a PhD in East European Studies and Middle East history. Teaching, not preaching, was my pathway of choice. Throughout my teaching career, I had never lost my thirst for spiritual awakening, and so too Anne Marie, who carried her spiritual self into environmental sustainability issues. My focus usually entailed metaphysical underpinnings as I continued to explore more deeply into abstract reasons for social behavior and spiritual relationships. Having a grounding in Jungian psychology and Chardinian metaphysics, I found myself being pulled more toward brain research and related issues of choice, free will, and personal responsibility. We have our discussions about free will, choice, what have you. Anyway, always present in my mind was the prayer of the 14th century theologian, Meister Eckhart of Hochheim. He said, his prayer, I pray to God to free me of God. Thus, I have felt guided by a spiritual impulse that compels me to seek to know God, not as that mythic, anthropomorphic God in the sky who would save humanity from its sins, but rather, as Christ said, the kingdom of God lies within you. It's up to me. It's up to you. God is the infinite energy of creation, an unfolding of which we are a part of from birth to death, morning till night. We are forever called to enter into a deeper relationship with Christ's consciousness. Evolution is something you do. I would repeat that. Evolution is something you do. I am convinced that you and I deliberately and intentionally create and co-create the future. It is the gift of 14 billion years of evolution, but also it's our burden. I won't talk about the burden. I was blessed to have a life partner who shared my spiritual enthusiasm and my frequent divergent thought patterns. Anne Marie was a brilliant, talented woman, a recorded classical guitarist, pianist, and educator. She was my inspiration to reach for the highest personal potential. Thus, it was devastating to be told in the year 2000 that she had level 4 cancer and was not expected to survive for more than a couple of years at best. We investigated alternative medicine and nutritional changes. We sought refuge within our spiritual core. I will be forever grateful and for the support and love shown by our two daughters, Meg and Cara. Anne-Marie fought her cancer for 14 years, never stopping the performance of music or volunteering in her grandchildren's classrooms. Our world had been altered, but not so our inner spiritual selves and our love for one another. Adversity has two sides. I am reminded of the musical Annie, in which Annie sings, "Tomorrow is only a day away." I had thought that my inner strength was tied to Anne-Marie's recovery. However, when I look back through the years of caregiving, my personal growth as Anne-Marie's escalated in surprising ways. We acknowledged that there was no answer to why Anne-Marie must suffer, nor why she had contracted cancer in the first place. That acknowledgement led us along a joyous path. We traveled to Hawaii multiple times, Alaska, Argentina, the Caribbean, Canada, the East Coast. Anne-Marie continued to love to dance. We went to Argentina for 6 weeks and took tango lessons. And she had just gotten out of chemotherapy. And she was so full of joy. It was wonderful. Anyway, she remained busy in the midst of surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. As with Anne-Marie, my personal growth was notably expansive. I and my friend Gordon Park founded a private college preparatory school, grades 6 through 12, westsoundacademy.org. In my spare time, I began to draw and paint, never having done so before. I've only been painting for probably 10 years and drawing, and I didn't know I had that talent. As I began to draw and paint, never having done so before, resulting in 2 of my own art shows, plus being included in other showings, twice receiving Best in Show recognition. So too did I begin to write about my metaphysical insights, often stimulated by quantum and spiritual discussions at our church in a group known as Tags, talking about God stuff, thanks to Pastor Tom Thresher for providing an environment that invited open discussion. Given my background and training, quantum physics, brain research, and consciousness enigma, all of that dovetailed nicely with my Christ consciousness theology. I had come to stand firmly in the belief that if the universe is vast, explosively creative, eerily beautiful and mysterious, so too are we humans. Vast, explosively creative, eerily beautiful, and mysterious, thus parroting both Jung and Chardin. Understanding consciousness has become my passion. I frequently refer to the Bhagavad Gita to express the dilemma of human consciousness. Arjuna, the main character, the Achilles, Arjuna is faced with killing his own people, his archetypal self. This is a conflict of heart facing every person, especially those seeking alternative spiritual fulfillment. Do you surrender to the existing orthodox paradigm, or do you seek to change the paradigm that has paralyzed your thinking? Your choice. My choice. Our past conditioning is a powerful barrier to the path of transformation, yet it is the very grounding upon which a greater sense of self rests. What a dichotomy. How do we deal with it? To lead in oneness with the Christ Spirit requires of us to divest ourselves of those materials. That's biblical. Divest ourselves of those material things and mindsets that limit our potential. So to do so requires a change in consciousness. We have self-reflective minds as a result of millions of years of evolution. The Catholic priest Teilhard de Chardin pointed out the key to human evolution in his law of complexity consciousness. He said that the complexity of outer form, the more we know about the complex universe, that the complexity of outer form correlates with the increasing depth of interior consciousness. Your universe expands, as so too your mind expands. The interior awareness necessary for humanity to establish a coherent view in a complex, globalizing, rapidly changing global culture would require of individuals, as Arjuna, to become aware of our archetypes, especially those that prevent us from reaching out in love to others or to nature itself. Hafez tells us, the poem that I read, Hafez tells us to say to everything and to everyone, Mashuk, Mashuk. Mashuk in Persian means sweetheart. And how can you say that without love in your heart? Can't. So why do I seek ordination into the universal... I'm coming to the end here. Why do I seek ordination into the universal brotherhood movement? I committed to Anne Marie just prior to her death that I would use my gift of energy, blessed by hers, to help others heal or to become more open-minded. This is a spiritual quest. I'm committing myself to the creation of the future. And in so doing, I feel a deep sense of liberation and a profound presence of love. Ordination would provide support to my pantheistic Christ spirit as I reach out to others in the capacity of an educator, a healer, and an artist. The end of my bio sketch. I would really love to take a moment. I've had an amazing experience. A couple of weeks ago, I have been spiritually in tune to the chorus in the eye, as Hafez, that poem. Every day, I seem to rise with a sense of joy. I go to bed with a sense of joy. I'm going around saying Mashuk to everything. So many synchronistic things are happening in my life. And I find that I am moving into my higher creative self through a series of synchronicities. Ooh, all right, I get excited. Anyway, I want to tell you about this. No, I thank you, though. Okay. I was sitting at my dinette, and I was, thank you. I was looking out across the water in the mountains. Beautiful, sunny day. The sun is shining, and the water is so calm. And I just had an emotional feeling. Mashuk. I just felt a deep spiritual sense. And I said to myself, I'd like to draw. And so the one image came to my mind. It was a picture that I had taken back in 1961. It's in my file downstairs. I went downstairs. There it was. I found it. I couldn't believe it. Okay, if I go upstairs and I'm drawing, and I'm busy, I have all kinds of other things going on. I headed off to do all my tasks. Next morning, sun is shining. Mountains have a pink blush, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm drawing, and I decide I better go take a shower. My dear friend, one of the dearest friends I could name, called me. I call her Mashuk. She was dear to Anne Marie, and she's very dear to me. Anyway, she had never called me before in the morning. I'm in the shower. I come out. Thing is blinking. How am I doing time-wise? Okay. All right. We don't care. Okay. And it's the phone is blinking at me, and I listen. Ed, she says, it's a beautiful day. Look out there. Mashuk had seen Mashuk. Mashuk had seen Mashuk. And I was stunned. That's the second synchronicity. The first synchronicity was I found the picture. The second one, as I'm watching, I'm invested in this drawing and the scenery. And there's Mashuk saying, look, okay, so I get busy with this and going through my mind. When I was driving through this snowstorm in the Tyrolean Alps, when I got out and I took this picture back in 1961, I was listening to Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. And I'm thinking, as I'm drawing this painting or this picture, I'm thinking, those clouds and the snowstorm, and I hear this music and what have you, and then I put my pencil down. It's all graphite. I got in the car to go in to get the mail. I turned on Classic King. You guessed it. I was stunned. Synchronicity 3. I'm moving into an self-awareness, creative awareness that I could never have imagined I could be. So, I drive in, I sit at the post office, and I listen to Schubert's Unfinished Symphony all the way through. I go back and I get busy, and I'm drawing, and I forget all of these other appointments and what have you, and I'm drawing away. I have never finished a drawing in 2.5 days. I did. The mountains, by the way, are not in the picture, even though our picture was taken in the Alps. And some of the rest of this, no, wasn't in the original picture. Anyway, I finished it. Something told me, write about it. And this is what happened. I was just going to write. Out of me, I don't often write poetry. Mashuk reveals to Mashuk by Edward Frodel for Mashuk. Mashuk declares, look, look, a spiritual moment is at hand. The mountains, blushing pink, have been kissed by the morning sun. The waters relaxing in the calm of dawn refrain the usual harmonics. What is this that seeks Mashuk's knowing heart? Ah, Mashuk, the earthly soul has met the cosmic soul. A sacred moment has just occurred, a moment in eternal time. And Mashuk, forever, Mashuk resides in that sublime experience. Mashuk, look, everything, everywhere, Mashuk. That was my fourth synchronicity. How did that come? I would like to conclude with a prayer. A prayer. Would you like to stand? You've been sitting so long. And hold hands. Oh, I have to hold on to this thing. Okay. Elbow. I'm going to say a prayer that is very special to me. It's like a mantra. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And it means, listen. We have all struggled in our relationship with God. Listen to the oneness of all humanity and all creation. Amen. This is a spiritual quest. I'm committing myself to the creation of the future.
How can I keep from singing?
Mashuk, Mashuk.